This Valentine's season, I've got something special just for you. Right now, My Essential Birth is $100 off, normally $297, but for a limited time, you can join for just $197. Plus, you'll receive 2 powerful bonuses, birth affirmation cards and the Birth Affirmations audio track, because preparing for birth isn't just about the information. It's about preparing your mind and heart too. These affirmations help you practice calm, confidence, and trust during pregnancy so that fear doesn't take over when labor gets intense. Thousands of mamas have used My Essential Birth to walk into birth feeling prepared, supported, and empowered. If you're ready to give yourself that kind of love this Valentine's Day, head to myessentialbirth.com/get started.
In COVID, I don't know if they've actually formally studied it. There was almost no babies admitted to NICUs. And my hypothesis was that everyone was home so that they were sleeping in and able to nap whenever they wanted. And their stress levels were high for pandemic reasons, but I think people were more able to listen to what they needed, because in regular modern life, we are asking pregnant moms to just kind of don't inconvenience anybody with your pregnancy. Don't ask for anything extra. Don't ask for more rest. Don't ask for breaks. Just keep going. Pretend like nothing's happening. But there's so much happening for you and your baby. And I really want people to know that. Please advocate for yourself. Please make your life as easy as possible, because like you said, we are going to have stressors, but also educate yourself on how to manage your stress.
Getting pregnant and giving birth are 2 of the most exciting things you can ever hope to experience in this life. The moment you think you could be pregnant, you're frantically searching for all the best information, which is why you're here today. I'm Stephanie King, and with my many years of experience as a professional childbirth educator, doula, and lover of all things pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, I'm here to make preparing for your birth enjoyable, empowering, and totally easy. Each week, I'll cover different topics, interview professionals, and get into the nitty-gritty birth stories from mamas just like you. And when you're ready for more, you can join me in the My Essential Birth course at myessentialbirth.com, where I take you step by step through exactly how to prepare your mind, body, spirit, and partner for a birth you love. So let's get started. All right, welcome to the podcast. This week, I have a special guest for you guys. I'm actually really excited she's here, and I think you're going to love what we dive into today. Her name is Greer Kirshenbaum. Am I saying that correctly? I should have asked you before. Perfect. Yep. Okay. PhD. She is a neuroscientist, an author, and educator, transforming how we understand early brain development. Trained at the University of Toronto, Columbia, NYU, and Yale, she brings cutting-edge neuroscience with her experience as a doula and mother to show how nurturing early relationships shape lifelong mental health. So with that, Dr. Kirshenbaum, if you would say hello to everybody, kind of if you want to add anything to that, and then I want to dive into how your work directly correlates with and affects and is good for these pregnant and postpartum mamas.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just so happy to be here, and I'm always so happy to be in the birth and baby world. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started in your work.
Sure. Yeah. I was always aiming towards the MD route. I always thought I was going to be a doctor, loved science. And then when it came time to pursue it, I felt much more drawn to healing arts versus being sort of surrounded by disease and illness. I wanted to prevent it and not treat it. So I got drawn towards research, and I was a research scientist for many, many years, really interested in how early life experience shapes lifelong health, which was just such a rich area for preventative health and healing. And over my time studying for many years, so much research came out to back up how early life experience can shape our emotional worlds and our mental health. Early life experience really wires our brain in every single system, but in the emotional world, that really became so obvious that I just felt like I had to share it with the world. And I could see it wasn't in the world, and it's still a baby in the world. It's still being birthed, and more people are discovering it. But I just thought it was such an important message to get out. And I still don't think the world truly understands how important it is.
Yeah, I think it's super neat what you do too. And I'm like, when did you pull in the doula aspect? Because I mean, that would just be such a neat thing to have somebody in your space that understands all this kind of background information. So yeah, when did you get started with that?
I love my doula training. So it was very, very close to me leaving academia. I was very well, educated in the science, but I want to work with people, and I'd never worked with people before. So I thought, let's take a doula course. I was reading the description. I don't know how. I remember being on my computer just searching everything, and I was like, whoa, like this is incredible. And then when I was in my doula trainings, I did DONA trainings. I was amazed at how science-based everything was too. And I just had like bells going. I was like, oh, this connects with this and this supports that. And the practices, that have been practiced by doulas are so vital for mental health, for creating mental health for babies. So it was like one of my first trainings. I wasn't sure if I was going to be a doula. I thought I was just going to take the training to understand it a little bit. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to get certified. And then, ended up working with families for many years.
That's really neat. I love, because of what you're saying, I'm like, the doulas, from the beginning of time didn't have the science and all the whatever behind it, but you were able to connect that. So do you mind talking about that for a minute? And for women that are listening and planning to have a doula or thinking about having a doula, what are those things that are so crucial for them to be doing in that space?
Absolutely. Emotional support is so vital. Emotional support, celebration, understanding the transition you're going to go through into a mother, and having other women and loving people around you is just so important. And so we can kind of understand how that's important in the psychological realm, but it's really important for our body's physiology too, because we tend to be in either, stressed, fear states, higher cortisol, or we can be in connected, safe states, which is higher oxytocin. And that will make pregnancies healthier. It will make baby's brain development, mother's brain development healthier in pregnancy. So doulas have a beautiful effect on their development, on the dyad's development in pregnancy. And then in birth, we need to feel safe and supported in order to have our oxytocin high. And that makes birth happen too.
Yeah.
And the postpartum so important as well, right? To have protection of the relationship, to have someone advocating for baby and mom to be together in a systems that is trying to separate them and intervene as much as possible. It's really protective.
Yeah, that's neat. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about, I should have started with this, but like, what is a neuroscientist, or what do you guys study? Because some of my experience is like, oh, you bring about what you think about kind of thing, or, that like manifestation kind of neuroscience is something that I think about, or that's something I think about when I hear that. So can you talk a little bit about neuroscience? And then I want to go into how this, like, talk to me about what happens during pregnancy and how it affects our babies.
Sure. Yeah. So neuroscience is any study that relates to the brain and the nervous system. So there are hundreds of topics in neuroscience, from vision to, muscle movements to, sensory processing, all kinds of things like that. I was specialized in emotional neuroscience, or affective neuroscience. So our emotional world and all the brain circuitry that underlies our emotional world and also our mental health, because those are very, very closely tied together. And so, why is that important in pregnancy and birth? It's really important because like I said before, both our babies' brains are developing throughout pregnancy and postpartum in the first 3 years of life, but so is mom and dad and parents' brains as well. And everyone in the family is going through a really important transition for adults and brain growth for babies. And so babies' mental health, their emotional health does start to form in the womb. And the experiences of the mother or surrogate, whoever is pregnant, is very, very closely tied to the baby's brain development. So our experiences that we have in pregnancy really matter for our baby's brain development and our own. And so do the first few years of life for babies and for parents.
Was there, when you were researching, was there specific research that you came upon that was just like, this is the coolest thing? Were there like highlights that you think of when you think of this kind of work?
I mean, the pregnancy work is amazing. It's incredible how there's some studies that show how much babies are learning in the womb. There's one study that's really cool where parents read a book to the babies in the 3rd trimester. So in the study, it was the book, The Cat in the Hat. And once the babies were born, they recognized the book. So they would react differently to that book than other books. And I would do this with my clients. I would say, like, pick your favorite baby book. I remember the first client I did it with, she picked the book Brown Bear. It was actually one of my really good friends. And then when her baby was born, and so I was around them a lot because they're very close to me, when she would read the book, the baby would just be mesmerized. He would just be really quiet and just like be listening for this familiar sound. It was really cool. So it's the same with music, your voice, all of these things. Babies learning so much before they come out. And not a lot of people think about that.
Yeah, that's really neat. So, I mean, I talk a lot about, and I think people in the birth space talk a lot about, keeping your space safe, having people around you that support you, making sure you're emotionally safe and that kind of stuff. This is kind of the science tied to that like everything that we go through, and not to put, all the pressure on moms, because life is up and down and you can't control all the things that happen, but to try and protect that space because it does have a direct effect on the baby, I think is kind of a neat thing to be able to say exists and also talk about.
Absolutely. I try to get this across to people as seriously as possible, because we are living in cultures that just basically ask us to just keep pretending like nothing's happening when we're pregnant. Like, don't change anything, like work the same amount, wake up the same time, don't nap, don't, all the things that we kind of need. It was interesting, like in COVID, I don't know if they've actually formally studied it, but when pregnant, like there was almost no babies admitted to NICUs during COVID. And my hypothesis was that everyone was home so that they were sleeping in and able to nap whenever they wanted. And their stress levels were high for pandemic reasons, but I think people were more able to like listen to what they needed, because in regular modern life, we are asking pregnant moms to just kind of like, don't inconvenience anybody with your pregnancy. Don't ask for anything extra. Don't ask for more rest. Don't ask for breaks. Just keep going. Pretend like nothing's happening. But there's so much happening for you and your baby. And I really want people to know that. Like, please advocate for yourself. Like, please make your life as easy as possible, because like you said, we are going to have stressors, but also educate yourself on how to manage your stress. Because we can have stressful pregnancies with great stress management and our babies still do really, really well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Can we kind of move into, I thought today would be really neat. I love talking about pregnancy and all this kind of stuff, but I know like kind of the next part is the postpartum and how baby's brain develops. You talk a lot about those like first 0 to 3 years. Can we kind of dive into that and talk about what that looks like their brain development during that time?
Absolutely. So, 0 is like conception, and then the end at 3 years old. It's the most critical time for us to grow mental health as human beings. There's two other times that are also really huge. One is adolescence, about age 9 to 13. And the other is when we become a mother or a father. So under those 3 times, our brains are under huge either construction in infancy, 0 to 3, or reconstruction in adolescence or parenthood. Menopause might be another one, but that's being studied right now. A lot of people think so. But the 0 to 3 is even more unique and more important than those other ones because it's creating the foundation of the brain. We use our brain all day, all night. It never stops. It's very important. It's like all of our organs are important, but it's like sort of our master organ, especially in the world of emotional and mental health. We know our gut's also involved, but the brain's very, very important. And it's kind of, it's like the hardware that our software needs to run off of for the rest of our lives. So when we think about 0 to 3, we think of it as the time of building all of these foundations in the brain. And so if babies are given very nurturing experiences in that time, mostly through the relationship with their mother or primary caregiver and other caregivers as well, their brain will grow really strong foundations for mental health. They'll be able to experience stress, experience hardship, and be able to recover reasonably well. And the opposite is if we experience very low nurture in those early 3 years of life, we are much more vulnerable to develop anxiety, depression, addiction, relationship struggles, cognitive struggles too, because they're also related to mental health. And we see that is really at epidemic levels right now. And so my answer is to try to spread the word to more families about how critical these first 3 years are so that we can gift the future happier lives, right? It's not just about mental health. It's really about being able to find love, being able to find great relationships, being able to delight, being able to just, live in peace.
Can you give us some examples of what that would look like? Like you're saying nurture, but what does that look like in real time?
Yeah, completely. So for our very young babies, a lot of that really means being part of mother, like mother and baby being one unit, certainly in the first year of life. And I know that's hard in our modern world where we have to go back to work often. But even with that, it's still possible to be there in the relationship. So there's just so much that's like trying to separate moms and babies. And what I want people to do is try to just reframe it as the two of you are growing together in this period. You need to be within like really close proximity. And a lot of babies don't give us a choice. They're just not happy unless they're like on us skin to skin. But it means being together, a lot of holding. It means being very open to your baby's communication, understanding it and learning it, and feeding them when they're hungry and they show you that with their cues, helping them sleep based on their cues, playing with them, delighting in them when they're in the mood, and just being in a very deep relationship, as it progresses out of, once they start to explore and walk and talk, still being in that relationship with them, but really going at their pace, like really understanding that the two of you have a dance that you're in and you do not need to be forcing or rushing or, doing any of the things that most places in society will tell you that you need to do.
Yeah, I think something that comes to mind for me, and I know it's always a big conversation with new moms or just in the birth world, is sleep training. And so do you have recommendations or thoughts on that? And, we've heard a lot of it used to be cry it out. And now there's a big, like, do not let them cry it out. And so I feel like goes along with what you're talking about. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, my wish is that sleep training would never happen in any home anywhere in the whole world. It's very scary to think about the impact of that on our babies and our mothers. It's traumatic to both. And it really puts the infant's brain development at risk and also mothers. And so I can't prove it because we don't have a great enough study yet or strong enough study. But what I believe, there was a book I used to have, which is by a bunch of scientists that was like, what I believe but cannot prove yet is all of our mental health struggles would be significantly better without sleep training. It's a very, very extreme. And it's really inappropriate for the developing brain of babies and mothers.
Quick pause, because I don't want you to miss this Valentine's bonus. For a limited time, My Essential Birth is $100 off, bringing the course to just $197. And when you join, you'll also receive birth affirmation cards and the Birth Affirmations audio track, as special as a Valentine's gift. These tools are designed to help you train your mindset before birth, so when things feel intense, your body and mind know how to stay grounded instead of panicking. The cards keep empowering reminders in your space, and the audio gives you a calming voice to come back to whenever you need that reassurance. This is about walking into birth feeling confident, supported, and extremely prepared. Visit myessentialbirth.com/get started, all one word, to join while this Valentine's offer is still available. Okay, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely like a big conversation. Then there's all these different methods, and it can be hard as you're like a mom and you're like, okay, like I'm not getting any sleep. So what do we do here? But I think it's interesting that like, yes, if you are responding to cues, you're closer to your baby, like you're saying, especially in those developing years, that we're going to see more positive things. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And there's a lot of major myths about babies and their sleep that make mothers feel that way, that make mothers feel, oh, sleep training is my only option. And when you understand infant sleep and understand the conditions for infant sleep, every family I work with, so I work with families in sleep consultations, and I have trained lots of people too, you can be responsive to your baby and be rested as much as any mother is rested, I will say.
Could you give like an example or two of that?
Yeah. A lot of, a very typical client we will get is someone sort of saying, what you were expressing, right? Like, oh, I'm too tired. I can't do it. I have to use sleep training. And very often there are schedules being followed instead of the baby's cues. There are different circadian rhythms that are not being honored. Baby's not getting appropriate lighting or darkness overnight. And babies are often not getting enough movement and often also not enough social interaction. So we can kind of restore babies' days to be much more biologically normal. And in that case, the nights become much more settled. And it is still normal for babies to wake up. It actually is dangerous if especially young babies are not waking up in some cases. And so it is normal for a lot of babies to continue waking, but we can very calmly, I say, like, let's get it so it's a non-event. Just be there for your baby. They get back to sleep. You get back to sleep, and everyone, continues on. So there is a very calm, nurturing way to approach infant sleep that never separates a baby or makes them cry.
Yeah, no, it's interesting as you're saying this. I'm like, of course, that would be the case. And when you're talking about schedules and stuff, and as you get older, schedules can be really helpful for, life, for a lot of things. But yeah, when you're talking about babies don't live on a schedule, they they live by how they feel and what they're doing and all of that. Or even the thought of like, you're talking about circadian rhythm and like, I assume morning light and nighttime light, and maybe not being on our phones when we're with our babies, or the blue lights, even in the house or on the screens. I think that's really interesting to kind of like pull all of that together and realize maybe the stress that we're putting on the baby that's making it not so restful for everybody at night. So
yeah, absolutely. And there's so much more awareness about sleep health too, right? Even, like the sleep optimization tips, right? So it does apply to babies too.
Yeah. And it makes sense that it would. And it's interesting too, because we, especially here in the United States, and like you were saying, there's so many demands put on us and all this. And I mean, even just the way that we live, the cost of how we live, how close to everybody that we live, just the stress of that versus if we were just kind of, even here in the United States, just kind of away on a farm, with our little family, like what would that really look like? And it for me and how my family runs now, it would be pretty different. It would, like how we wake up, how we go to sleep, the time that we spend, the driving around, what would it really look like? It'd be a lot more calming.
Yeah, it's really artificial. When we take out a lot of the artificial input, babies definitely sleep
definitely
better.
Well, and that sweet little newborn, I feel like they'd be so sensitive to it. So it makes sense that it would affect them like that.
Yeah. And it's also really important for, Americans, Canadians, UK, Australia. Like, this is where sleep training is the most popular. 90% of the world does not obsess about their baby's sleep at all. Like, it's not something they think about. They just roll on with their days, and we can too. And you will find so much more joy in your motherhood if you can change your mindset about it. And sleep training is not done in 90% of the world either. So it's a very weird thing that we do. You're right. It is influenced by our also, culture and our work schedules. But I work with parents who have all kinds of situations, and they all can find peace with it.
I feel like that's the quote of the week. Like 90%. I feel like moms need to hear that. I need to hear that. Yeah. I don't, that's really, really important that people hear that. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. And even, it's also like very emotional topic. And a lot of people, because it is extremely difficult to do, might feel bad hearing me say what I think about it. But honestly, like, this is the system that we are in and the culture that we are in. And most of us are convinced that that's the only way to get sleep. And so very often when I appear somewhere, it's like the first time people are hearing, oh, I didn't know that that wasn't the way. Right. So it's always possible to heal that wound as well. So that's important for people to know. And that it's like, no, don't feel bad. You did the best. Every single mother at any time in any place in history is doing their best. I know this.
It's so true. That was going to be one of my questions that when you were talking about this, like 0 to 3 and the importance of this and this nurturing and what if you didn't? What if, what does that look like for children moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So it first to mourn it, really, like to have some, to grieve that you didn't have that information at the time. And, this research is about, attachment research started in the 1950s. So it has been around a while, but the neuroscience has only been around for about, let's say 30 years, maybe 20 or 30 years. And that's about how long it takes for research to get into conversations and get into society, right? So grieve that, if it feels like, if it feels sad that you've lost something, but also there is always a return to the relationship. We can, change our mindset, change our approach at any time. We can repair with our child. We can talk to them about it. We can say, listen, this is all the best advice I got at that time. I now realize that I wish I made other choices then. And if I could go back, I would. And I'm so sorry that I left you to cry. That must have been scary. I wish I was there. And I will not do that again. I just want you to know that from now on, all of your feelings are comfortable for me. And I want to be with you when you experience your life. That repair can go a very long way. And I've even had it happen in adults where they're senior citizen parents in their 70s are repairing with a 40-year-old. And that is life-changing too, right? So we can always repair. We can't change the circuits that form from 0 to 3 years, but we can build on top of them, right? Which is what all therapy is. And, amazingly, so many of us are in different therapeutic modalities to repair what happened to us from 0 to 3.
Yeah.
And that is effective, right? If it's repeated and long enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We have teenagers right now. I'm a little, we've got some older kids, and my oldest boy is turning 17. And so we have been kind of going at it back and forth. We homeschool. There's a lot of mistakes that I made. There's a lot of, I'm like, I'm so sorry. You were my first and I am so sorry. We're both learning, but it's interesting. I've seen these little shifts recently that have been so inspiring that I'm like, okay, not all is lost, even though maybe we got some things really wrong early on. Even like, I'm like using my Heavenly Father and I'm praying about it. And I'm like, what can I do to kind of build this relationship? Mm-hmm. And it has been these simple things like, I'm going to go in and make his bed. Like, he's 17. He doesn't need mommy to make his bed. You know what I mean? I'm going to go make his bed. I'm going to clean his room. I'm going to give him a little neck massage at night while we talk or whatever. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, he's getting a little closer, opening up a little bit more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And not realizing that it really is these small, simple, nurturing things like you're talking about that can build upon maybe some of those not so great circuits, like you said.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Absolutely. It's
I'm
always felt
definitely
good.
learning as a mom, you know?
I think we will always be making mistakes and always
Yeah.
learning and always repairing. And
Yeah.
especially in at all ages, but definitely in the infant years, rupture and repair is part of what builds their brain.
Mm.
And it also, at any age as well, it teaches us how to be in deep relationships with other humans because we all make mistakes. And to know that that doesn't mean a relationship has to end or go cold. We can always say, "Oh, you know what? I think I didn't say that very nicely the other day. I'm really sorry if I hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to do that. Can we start fresh?" Right? That really teaches our little ones a lot.
Yeah. Could you maybe talk about, I'm thinking of like moms and what they do to kind of regulate their stress and I'm pregnancy and into, having children. What does
Mhm.
that look like for moms?
Yeah. There's really good research on when mothers practice any type of stress reduction technique in pregnancy. It's really great for her well-being, but it's also really good for the baby. The baby, because their nervous system, because their emotional systems are growing in the womb, it can be changed by experience in pregnancy. So if you're practicing mindfulness in any sort of way, any sort of stress reduction technique. So, I mean, there's so many. Like, I love mindfulness for mothers. I love, yeah, like guided meditations, walking meditations, just like body scan, relaxing, connecting to baby and talking to baby in pregnancy, all kinds of things. Movement, right? Like gentle movement, yoga, sound baths, right? There's all massage. There's so many ways that can increase your oxytocin, reduce your cortisol in pregnancy. And those have a really big impact on mom and baby. And it's also really great for moms to remember to continue that postpartum too, because babies are always borrowing your nervous system. They're always um, growing from it. And so, I know what it's like to be I'm a mother as well. I know how hard it is to have that time, but I think it's very important for us to be very serious about advocating for that time for ourselves too, so we don't burn out and get sick.
Yeah, I think that's smart. You have a baby and you can't help it. You are like all enveloped and taking care of this little baby. And it is easy to forget yourself, or even like you're saying, just these daily practices that could be so useful to helping us be
Mhm.
calm. I think that's really
And when your
cool.
baby is little, it is so easy to do those practices with your baby. And your baby is actually helpful because your baby is giving you oxytocin too. So if you have your baby in a
Mm.
carrier and you put on some nice music and sway to the music and go inward, that's so helpful. If any way that you're soothing your baby, always remember you're soothing yourself at the same time. So if you're singing to your baby, you're also receiving that medicine. If you're walking up and down the hall and swaying with them, you're also getting that movement therapy, right? If you're putting them to sleep, if you're lying beside them, feeding them to sleep, you can focus on your breathing and do a little bit of mindfulness as well. And so if you're feeling like in those early days, oh, I don't want to like go somewhere and go away and be away from my baby to do it, you can do it with your baby. And yeah, it's also good to like give dad or another parent or grandparents some time to bond with your baby too while you have a bath or do something for yourself. So even though I know how hard it feels, it's still good.
All right. You have some educational programs yourself that you offer for moms and for
Mhm.
parents. Can you talk a little bit about what you offer and what that looks like for people who are interested?
Yeah, absolutely. My new program for mothers is called Becoming the Nurtured Mother. We just finished a group right before Christmas break, and it was incredible. It's a 12-week program for mothers. It has a lot of mindfulness, as you might guess, but a lot of personal growth because a lot of mothers in the program And the mothers I come across will say, yeah, I'm in a mom's group or a mom's chat, or I see people, but like no one's talking about anything real.
Mm.
And so we really, really talk about the real stuff and really help you grow into your motherhood and really celebrate it as this, unbelievable transformation that you're going through. So yeah, that's going to be open again in April, starting in April. And so I'm very excited for that. That's the one I'm the most excited about right now.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. So it's a live program. So you go through with this whole group all at the same time and
Yeah.
all of
And
that.
our
That's
group
neat.
loved each other so much that they just kept going without me.
That's
They're
great.
still meeting.
Oh, that's so
They're like,
neat.
can we just keep meeting? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like,
And it's online, right? So they're
it's all
meeting
online.
online. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's neat. I know
Yeah.
I'm all for, I think if you can get together with people in person, I think that's great. Like I always recommend the Lecce League because I just think it's this really helpful to see each other going through the same thing. And maybe you don't have a church group or a family or, whatever. I think that's really helpful. But yeah, walking through something like that where you're working on something together and kind of same stage of life and you can lean on each other. I just think that's so amazing.
It's wonderful. So that's the one I lead, but I also train professionals. I have a professional certification. And like, I completely agree with you. And so they're trained to lead a 12-week pregnancy circle and a 12-week mom and baby circle. And so my dream for that is that we have a nurture neuroscience practitioner in every community around the world where moms can go during pregnancy and early postpartum to cover also like very deep, meaningful experiences and help them really connect to their intuition, strengthen their relationship and their self-love, and also the relationship with their baby.
Yeah. What do you think would be the difference if we got more of what you're talking about out in the world? Have you kind of seen some of the change? Like I'd love for you to talk about that and then talk about your vision of like what you see this doing for people.
Oh my gosh. It is overwhelming now that we have so many groups going on around the world and we're starting to get so much feedback from the program. I just see mothers just so confident, so lit up, so delighting so much in this experience, and that, translating to their babies. I mean, I see world peace from this. I think if we heal birth, heal earth, like it's going to happen. Like these babies are growing up. So the mothers are growing up to be just, incredible people, like going out into the world and doing amazing things. And their babies are they're like these little magical beings. They're so empathetic. They are so considerate. They have the biggest hearts. They're just reaching their potential. And I see that, huge ripple effects from that.
It feels silly that we have to go out and teach it. Like it really is something that you feel like should be part of you and part of the society. But we certainly have gotten away. I mean, it's why I ended up in birth work, right? It's the same thing. Like we've gotten so far away from like the natural progression of birth and how pregnancy goes. And, we need to stop treating it like an emergency and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like you're doing that important work where it's like, okay, now let's re-heal. We need to like come back to what we know inside intuitively we should be doing that we keep putting aside because the world tells us otherwise,
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. It's really fighting back against, the past few hundred years where all this was taken away from us. It's like our birthright to be deeply connected to our babies and to grow from it and become like leveled up, right? Like to be transformed into like our full expression of who we are through motherhood. So yeah, so much of it is undoing and kind of trying to get rid of some beliefs and then like uncovering that mother's connection to who she is inside.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just remembered you have this education program, but you also have a book. Will you talk about the book? Because I'm like, if moms maybe aren't ready to jump into that, or maybe they're pregnant and they want to get started on this first or whatever, will you talk a little bit about your book?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can maybe see it up here. My book is The Nurture Revolution. I'm seeing if I have anyone around. And so it's going to go over all of the science that I kind of touched on today, more deeply into how we like heal intergenerational trauma through nurture. So we heal genetics through nurture, and then we grow these new amazing brain circuits through nurture for babies and moms and dads. in the first 3 years. And then we'll go into how to bring that to the connection with your baby's sleep, and also when your baby's stressed. Those big
That's
signs.
interesting. I like one of the things when you're talking about like neuroscience study of the brain and all this, and there's a lot more videos that you see come out about when we talk nice to each other or just like creating neural pathways. Or I saw one about taking a thought captive, like quite literally, like what happens in your brain when you stop a thought midway. Or I think I don't know. We know how we feel. Like we know how we feel when someone talks poorly to us or talks kindly to us. But now to see the like what is literally happening in the brain when you do these things, you're like, oh, well, it all makes sense, or even, and maybe you don't subscribe to this at all, and so it's totally fine. You can tell me, but it's like Dr. Hashimoto's, like the when he speaks kind words or whatever to ice as it's freezing, and it makes these like beautiful snowflake kind of looking like these shapes and whatever. And then the like loud, angry words, and it's like all jagged and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like our body is how much % water, like majority water. And we're constantly these vibrations, like sending them to our kids. And anyways, it was powerful for me to see, because I'm like, yes, I have to, I can't just like even our energy, even like how I hug and hold my children, or how it's not even just the words coming out of my mouth or how I'm saying them, but our energy matters. I just think it's so
100%.
interesting. Yeah.
I talk about that a lot in my book. There's a whole part on just like developing a nurturing presence, which I think is the most important thing. Like sleep training or not, or whatever, however you handle stress, or however whatever you say. You're right. It doesn't matter what you say. It's like what's your state, right? Your nervous system state inside. Having a nurturing presence by far is the most important. And so that means that, like my goal as a mother, and again, like, I mess up all the time and repair all the time because mothers, but that is my goal, is to be a safe, warm nest from my son to explore the world from. And I hope that's the same when he's 17 and the same when he's 40, because we all know that we always need our mother, and for her to be that for us.
Yeah. And women are especially made that way, where we just are naturally more nurturing. And I love the idea of that we can kind of lean into it and grow that and make it so much better for our families. They kind of the idea, or what they say, and it's totally true, right? We set the tone for our household, and there's no truer words. Like mom sets the tone. That's it. And that's really powerful if you think about, the kids that are within your home and going out into the world. And, like you're talking about this world peace, that's quite a literal thing. And you can create it within your home and then send those little beings out and create more of it. I just think
absolutely. They're magical. Like they're magical little healers, these babies coming from nurturing homes. Yeah, completely.
Yeah,
completely.
I love that. Well, okay. Thank you for being here today. I would love to ask you, I don't know that you have maybe a perfect answer for this because I feel like you have so much information, but if there was like one thing you would want moms to take away from this, or one thing that you could tell moms either pregnant or with these new babies, what would that be?
I love that question. I think what you just said led me into it, is that our like softness and vulnerability and intuition are our strength. And we've probably been led to believe that some of that makes us weak, or, not good enough, or too emotional, or too much. But actually it is our strength. And when we understand, how those are really superpowers for us to really lean into, and that we have so much of this knowledge inside, we can really flourish. We can really flourish in our relationship with our babies and children and in our own life journey.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. All right. Before we jump off, I want you to tell everybody where they can connect with you and all of that. And then for everyone that's listening, this will be in the show notes as well. So you'll have links to everything.
Beautiful. Yeah. My website is nurture-neuroscience.com. I have all my offerings there, and I'm on Instagram as Dr. Greer Kirshenbaum.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, for your wisdom and for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Stephanie.
If you loved what you heard today, the very best way to support this podcast and help other moms to find it is to leave a quick review. I read one at the beginning of the episodes, and I would love for yours to be next. And if you're ready for even more pregnancy, birth, and postpartum goodness, come join me in the My Essential Birth course at myessentialbirth.com, where I will hold your hand and walk you through pregnancy and birth step by step so you're totally prepared for a birth you'll love. See you next week.